My friend, I want to speak to your potential today, not just your situation, because the problem is not around you, it is within you. Until your mind is transformed, your life will remain unchanged. Let me say it plainly, wealth is not first a product of labor, it is a product of thought. When God gave man dominion, He gave it not through cash, coins, or credit cards. He gave it through consciousness. You were designed to rule by wisdom, not by wages. But if your mind is still trained by a system of lack, then no matter how much you earn, you will never keep it. Your mind is the harvest. This is not just a metaphor, it is a spiritual and psychological law. The mind is the original territory given to every human by the Creator. It is where dominion begins, where ideas are born, where destinies are shaped. Just as the soil does not care what kind of seed you plant, your mind will grow whatever you continually deposit in it. Whether it's the seed of wealth or the seed of worry, your mind will produce what you sow and not what you wish. If you want to experience financial abundance in your life, then you must first become intentional about what kind of thoughts, beliefs, and visions you are planting into the garden of your mind. No farmer would ever expect apples after planting thorn bushes. Yet many people expect prosperity while sowing fear, envy, scarcity, and doubt in their minds every day. They listen to voices of limitation, speak words of lack, and meditate on problems, then wonder why their life bears no fruit. The law is simple. The mind, like soil, does not discriminate. It multiplies what you put in it. If you plant seeds of "I'll never have enough," "I'm not good with money," or "only lucky people get rich," then your life will harvest those exact outcomes. Your thoughts become roots, and eventually, those roots produce visible fruits in your daily experience. Everything visible is born from the invisible, and that invisible realm is first accessed through thought. Thoughts are spiritual seeds. Words are the water, repetition is the sunlight, and belief is the fertilizer. When you combine all of these, the soil of your mind begins to take on new power. But this also means that every time you allow negative, fearful, or limiting thoughts to take root, you are sowing weeds into your mental garden. Weeds choke out wealth. They consume space, resources, and energy. And worst of all, they grow fast. That's why guarding your mind is not optional, it is essential. Training your mind for wealth requires intentionality. The problem for most people is that they inherited mental soil filled with bad seeds. Maybe they were raised in poverty. Maybe they grew up hearing parents argue over bills. Maybe their culture glorified suffering and demonized wealth. All of these are seeds, deeply planted, deeply rooted, and constantly producing. If you do not uproot them, they will remain. And if you want to attract unlimited wealth, you must first cleanse the soil of your mind from the toxins of your past programming. This means examining your beliefs about money. Do you believe money is hard to get? Do you think having too much makes you selfish? Do you think God is more pleased when you have just enough to survive? If so, those beliefs must be removed, not ignored, uprooted, because they are competing with the seeds of wealth you want to sow. No matter how hard you work, no matter how many strategies you try, your beliefs will sabotage your results if your inner soil is not cultivated for abundance. Once you begin removing the weeds, you must replace them with the right seeds. This is where affirmations, meditations, scriptures, and visualization become critical. Start planting new thoughts daily. Wealth flows to me freely and ethically. I am worthy of abundance. I am a steward of increase. Prosperity is a tool for purpose. When you repeat these ideas, you are not just speaking into the air. You are cultivating your internal environment. You are building new mental roots that will support long-term growth. The fruit will not appear overnight, but it will appear consistently if you do not stop watering it with repetition and belief. And remember, soil needs protection. You must guard your mind from negative influences, toxic conversations, and scarcity-based environments. Don't let the enemy of your future sow weeds while you sleep. Monitor your associations. Audit the media you consume. Saturate your environment with inspiration, knowledge, wisdom, and financial education. Because the mind is always absorbing something, and you must choose what it will be. True wealth is not first about numbers. It is about mental conditioning. You cannot attract what you are mentally allergic to. If your inner world is filled with guilt, shame, fear, or resistance to wealth, then you will keep pushing it away even while praying for it. That's why transformation must begin in the soil of your thoughts. The harvest is guaranteed, but only according to what you sow. Wealth begins as an idea, not in the bank. Every visible manifestation of abundance you see in the world today, every skyscraper, every global company, every invention, every movement of wealth, started as an invisible thought in the mind of a person who dared to believe that their idea was valid. Before there was profit, there was a picture. Before there was a product, there was a pattern in someone's imagination. The wealthiest people did not stumble into riches. They birthed them from the womb of vision. They saw something that didn't exist in the natural and believed they had the right to create it. That's where wealth is born. Not from money, but from the mind. Money is a result, not a source. It is the fruit, not the root. Many people waste their lives chasing money, never realizing that money was never meant to be pursued. It was meant to be attracted by ideas. Money follows solutions. And solutions come from insight. The true currency of this world is not paper, it is imagination. The bank is not your beginning. The mind is. If you start with a brilliant idea, grounded in purpose and value, wealth will come looking for you. But if you start with the desire for money without clarity of thought, you'll live in frustration and confusion. Because money has no loyalty to desire, it only responds to vision. Ideas are seeds of wealth, and the size of your financial breakthrough will always be in proportion to the boldness of your idea. Not the idea that simply visits your mind once and leaves. No, the idea you sit with, build upon, meditate on, and believe in. That idea becomes your internal blueprint, and when you walk in faith, that blueprint eventually turns into a building. What starts as a dream in the secret place will one day be displayed in the public space if you refuse to let go of it. But you must give it life through action, persistence, and belief. You don't need a rich background to be wealthy. You don't need an inheritance, a degree, or even connections. What you need is an idea that solves a real problem and the discipline to pursue it until it becomes a reality. Look at the great entrepreneurs, inventors, creators, and pioneers. They all started in the same place, the blank canvas of the mind. They didn't wait for a bank loan before thinking big. They didn't ask permission to dream. They saw something others didn't see, and they had the courage to act on it. That's where transformation happens. Most people are trapped because they've never been trained to think creatively. They believe wealth is in a paycheck or a promotion, not in their potential. But the truth is, every dollar you will ever earn is tied to your mental patterns. If you expand your thinking, you expand your earning. If you shrink your imagination, you shrink your future. The real bank is in your brain. The real treasury is in your thoughts. And every time you write down a new idea, sketch a plan, or solve a problem in your mind, you are making a deposit into your future. This is why protecting your ideas is critical. Not everyone can handle what's growing inside you. You must be careful who you share your vision with, because small minds will always attack big dreams. Some people will try to withdraw from your potential before you've even built anything. Don't let that happen. Guard your thoughts like a banker guards his vault. Value your ideas, refine them, work on them daily, because your wealth is already within you. It just needs to be pulled out through thought, speech, and action. Ideas become wealth when they are nurtured with faith. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. The wealthiest people did not just dream, they believed. They walked forward without seeing the full picture. They built when they had no funds. They started when they had no guarantee. That is the power of faith applied to imagination. It moves you from dreaming to doing. It shifts you from concept to creation. Wealth responds to creativity, to clarity, to courage. And all of those are products of the mind. So don't look to your bank statement to decide how wealthy you are. Look to your ideas. Look to your vision. Look to what you believe is possible, because that is where your true fortune lies. Poverty is a culture of the mind, not a condition of the wallet. It is not about how little money you have. It is about how little you expect, how limited you believe, and how small you think. Poverty is not simply the absence of resources. It is the presence of mental limitations that have been inherited, accepted, and repeated over time. You can give a poor-minded person $1 million, and if the mindset does not change, that money will find a way to vanish. On the other hand, a wealthy mind can lose all material possessions and rebuild it all again, because the true treasure is not in the hand, but in the head. Until you change your mental conditioning, wealth will be temporary, because your thoughts and beliefs create the thermostat of your life. If your inner setting is set on survival, you will sabotage success. If your internal identity says, "I am not worthy of abundance," then any increase you receive will be filtered through that belief and slowly leak away. That's why you see people win the lottery and end up bankrupt, while others start from nothing and rise to massive abundance. The difference is not in luck, it is in mental culture. Culture is a system of beliefs, values, traditions, and habits. Poverty becomes a culture when lack is normalized, when struggle is expected, and when just enough is celebrated as success. You can see this in the way people talk. Money doesn't grow on trees. Oh, I can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. I'll never get ahead. Life is hard. These statements are more than words. They are agreements with scarcity. They shape how a person sees themselves and their potential. If you repeat these beliefs long enough, they become a mental prison. A poverty mindset makes you allergic to abundance. It causes you to reject opportunities, avoid risk, and resist change. It whispers that success is for others, not you. It teaches you to feel guilty when you prosper and to feel more comfortable when you are struggling. This is not about money. It is about mental programming. And like any program, it can be rewritten. But it must be done intentionally and persistently. You must begin to challenge every thought, every belief, every family tradition, and every cultural narrative that tells you wealth is not your portion. Ask yourself, who taught me how to think about money? Where did I learn that being rich is bad? Why do I feel more safe being broke than being blessed? These questions will expose the roots of poverty in your thinking. And once you locate the roots, you can begin the work of uprooting them. Wealth sustains itself when the mind is aligned with it. That means your thinking, speaking, planning, and acting must match the reality you want to manifest. If you think rich but speak poor, there's a conflict. If you talk abundance but act in fear, there's a misalignment. And where there is misalignment, there can be no multiplication. When your inner world is in unity with the principles of increase, then wealth begins to rest on you, not just visit you. It begins to stay, grow, and reproduce in your life. This is why you must develop a new mental culture, one that is based on abundance, purpose, and stewardship. Begin to think in terms of overflow, not just survival. Speak like someone who expects provision. Make plans that reflect increase, not limitation. Surround yourself with people, environments, books, and voices that affirm your wealthy identity. Change your inner language. Replace words like can't and struggle with provision and strategy. A wealthy mind does not panic in crisis. It sees opportunity. A wealthy mind does not hoard in fear. It creates in faith. A wealthy mind doesn't chase money. It builds value. These are not external behaviors. They are internal cultures that produce lasting results. And they must be cultivated intentionally every day. If you keep thinking the way you've always thought, you'll keep living the way you've always lived. Poverty ends when the mind is renewed. That's where real transformation begins. Not with a raise, not with a loan, not with a miracle check in the mail, but with a new belief system that says, I was not born for struggle. I was born for dominion. I am not a slave to survival. I am a steward of overflow. I do not serve money. I command it as a tool to fulfill my assignment. When that culture takes root in your mind, poverty has no place in your life. You will never possess what you first cannot envision. The reason so many people never walk into abundance is not because it's unavailable. It's because it's unimaginable to them. If you cannot see it in your mind, you will not seize it in your life. Your imagination is the womb of your future. And what you refuse to conceive, you cannot carry. And what you cannot carry internally, you will never deliver externally. Everything God creates in the physical realm begins with a mental picture. That's why vision is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Until you can see yourself wealthy, no amount of effort will sustain that outcome, because the image inside you always overrides the circumstances around you. You cannot live beyond the clarity of your internal image. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, barely gets by, or who is not meant to prosper, then your life will bend to that vision. Your behavior, your decisions, your associations, and your expectations will all begin to support the picture you hold on the inside. It doesn't matter how many affirmations you say or how hard you work. If you still see yourself as small, limited, or undeserving, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that tries to pull you higher. That's because your imagination is stronger than your willpower. You don't rise to your wishes. You rise to your inner vision. This is why the battlefield is always your mind. It's not the economy, it's not your job, it's not your background. It's the pictures you keep replaying on the canvas of your thoughts. If all you can imagine is debt, stress, delay, and struggle, then your life will continue to mirror that. But if you can begin to imagine a life of increase, peace, generosity, and overflow, then your world must eventually realign to reflect that internal shift. Your imagination is not fantasy, it is prophecy. It is your spirit giving you a glimpse of what could be if you dared to believe. People who achieve great wealth are not always the smartest or the most talented, but they are usually the ones who saw it first. They believed they could live a different life before there was any evidence. They saw themselves building businesses, helping others, impacting the world, living in abundance, and they let that image dominate their thoughts. That picture became so real to them that it guided their actions, shaped their decisions, and gave them the courage to persist through hardship. They weren't waiting for something to change. They were becoming someone new in their mind. If you cannot picture yourself walking into your dream home, leading a thriving business, writing large checks to bless others, or living with financial peace, then don't expect life to bring it to you. Life responds to your mental blueprints. What you repeatedly imagine becomes what you unconsciously build. That's why the most dangerous poverty is not financial. It is visual poverty. When your imagination is broken, your future has no direction. You must give yourself permission to dream big, not just once, but daily. Visualize what wealth looks like for you. Not just in dollars, but in dignity and freedom, in impact. Imagine yourself living in your assignment without the pressure of survival. See yourself helping your family, funding causes, traveling without stress, and creating legacy. You are not being arrogant when you do this. You are being obedient to your design. You were made to rule, not to beg. But you must first see the crown in your mind before it ever sits on your head. If your vision has been blurred by disappointment, betrayal, or failure, it's time to heal your imagination. Clean the lens through which you see your future. Let go of the old images of shame, scarcity, and fear. Replace them with new ones filled with purpose, beauty, and wealth. Your imagination must be trained like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. The more detailed your vision, the more magnetic your life becomes to the very things you're envisioning. You cannot build what you cannot see. You cannot hold what you cannot picture. You cannot walk into a future that your imagination has not previewed. So the work begins not with your hands, but with your mind. Paint the picture. Hold the image. Protect the vision. Because until you see it within, you'll never seize it without. The law of attraction begins with the law of attention. Before anything is drawn into your life, it must first be drawn into your awareness. You cannot attract what you're not paying attention to. Your focus is the first invitation to anything that will eventually become your reality. The principle is simple: whatever you consistently give your energy, thoughts, and emotions to, expands. If your attention is always on what you lack, what you fear, what's missing, or what could go wrong, then lack, fear, and limitation will continue to grow. Not because they are more powerful, but because you are feeding them with the fuel of focus. Your attention is fertilizer. It multiplies whatever you apply it to. Many people live their entire lives in cycles of lack, not because they are cursed, but because they are distracted. Their attention is so consumed by what they don't have that they never create space to recognize the opportunities they do have. They wake up thinking about bills, they go to bed thinking about debts, and they spend their day rehearsing financial pressure. So their life continues to echo the very reality they dislike. Not because it's their destiny, but because it's their focus. You cannot pray for abundance while meditating on scarcity. You cannot speak about increase while focusing on insufficiency. That's like planting seeds of wealth and watering them with words of lack. They simply will not grow. This is why shifting your attention is not just a motivational idea. It's a spiritual law. It is the first key to activating the law of attraction. Attention determines direction. What you look at longest becomes strongest. If you focus on overflow, your mind will begin to spot opportunities, connections, insights, and ideas that support increase. If you focus on solutions, your creativity will be stirred. If you focus on gratitude, more things to be grateful for will appear. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your inner focus begins to train your external experience. The power of attention is not in seeing what is, but in seeing what can be. If you only focus on your current balance, you will remain bound to that balance. But if you lift your eyes and fix them on the vision, on the future, on the promise of more, your mind and spirit will begin to move in that direction. The subconscious mind is like a heat-seeking missile. It locks onto the target you give it. And it does not question whether it's a good or bad target. It simply moves toward what has been highlighted. Most people give their attention away carelessly. They give their focus to distractions, to entertainment, to gossip, to other people's problems. Then they wonder why their lives feel stuck, scattered, or stagnant. The truth is, whatever steals your attention will ultimately direct your life. You must become intentional about where your eyes, ears, and energy go. If it does not point you toward increase, then it is pulling you toward decrease. If it doesn't remind you of who you're becoming, it's reinforcing who you were. You cannot afford to let your attention wander aimlessly. Train your focus like a laser. Wake up with your vision in front of you. Speak what you desire, not what you fear. Journal your goals. Meditate on scriptures and truths that affirm abundance. Review your plans. Visualize your future. Give attention to progress, not problems. When you feel lack knocking at the door of your thoughts, redirect your focus to what's working, to what's growing, to what's improving. That shift in attention is not denial. It's discipline. It's not ignoring reality. It's shaping it. Where attention goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, results grow. This is the pattern of manifestation. The more consistently you dwell on something, the more you build momentum in that direction. If you live with your mind fixed on increase, on purpose, on divine provision, then your spirit becomes magnetic to those things. You'll begin to see open doors that others miss. You'll start attracting resources, relationships, and revelations that align with the image in your mind. Not by chance, but by choice. Your attention is the gatekeeper of your destiny. Use it wisely. Focus is faith in action. If you say you believe in abundance, your attention should prove it. If you desire wealth, your focus must reflect it. This is not about being obsessed with money. It's about being committed to alignment. Because you will always attract what you attend to. You cannot escape this law. You either use it with intention or suffer under it by default. You cannot attract what you secretly despise or fear. This is one of the most overlooked truths in the pursuit of abundance. People often wonder why their efforts don't yield results, why their prayers seem unanswered, and why their wealth goals remain distant. Yet they never examine their inner beliefs about the very thing they desire. You will always resist becoming what you inwardly believe is wrong. If you associate wealth with greed, with corruption, with pride, with selfishness, or if you carry guilt about having more than others, then no matter how hard you try, you will push it away. Not consciously, but subconsciously. And the subconscious always wins. Your inner belief system functions like a gatekeeper. It only allows into your life what aligns with your core values and emotional comfort zones. So if you were taught that money is the root of all evil, that rich people are bad, or that wealth causes division, then even if you claim to want prosperity, a part of you will fight against it. This internal conflict is what creates self-sabotage. You may make money, but you'll find ways to lose it. You'll delay decisions, avoid opportunities, or feel uneasy when increase comes. Because your spirit is trying to protect you from becoming what you've been conditioned to hate. This is why healing your beliefs is essential. You must examine the roots of your financial identity. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about wealth? What emotions rise up when I think about becoming rich? Do I feel unworthy? Do I feel afraid of criticism or judgment? Do I feel like I have to choose between being spiritual and being successful? These are not surface questions. They go deep into your history, your culture, your family dynamics, your religious teachings, and your personal experiences. And until you confront them, they will quietly sabotage your abundance. Many people were raised in environments where money was a source of pain, stress, or division. They saw arguments over bills, experienced shame when asking for things, or heard constant messages of, "We can't afford that." Over time, those experiences form an emotional association, wealth to pain or lack to safety. So in adulthood, the very thing that could elevate them, wealth, also threatens their emotional comfort. And since the human heart seeks emotional safety, they unconsciously protect themselves by rejecting increase. To welcome abundance, you must rewire your emotional associations. Begin to see wealth not as corruption, but as a tool. Wealth is neutral. It takes on the character of the person who holds it. In the hands of the selfish, it can be destructive. But in the hands of the righteous, it becomes a force for healing, justice, impact, and transformation. If you are a person of integrity, then wealth will amplify your goodness, not diminish it. You must believe this. You must internalize this. Because if you don't, your subconscious will keep pushing abundance away, even while your lips are confessing it. Let go of guilt. You are not taking from others by becoming wealthy. You are becoming someone who can give more. You are not betraying your roots. You are breaking generational limitations. You are not being selfish by desiring financial peace. You are positioning yourself to serve with strength. Wealth does not diminish your character, it reveals it. And if your heart is pure, then wealth becomes a magnifier of your purpose. But you must trust that truth deep within your soul. Replace your inner narrative. Instead of thinking, rich people are greedy, Begin to say, wealth allows me to serve better. Instead of thinking, money will change me, say, money will amplify the best in me. Speak abundance with love, not fear. Affirm wealth with peace, not guilt. Imagine yourself increasing without apology. See yourself blessed and still humble. See yourself wealthy and still compassionate. This is how you reconcile your heart with your vision. If you do not heal your internal perception of wealth, you will never fully welcome it. You will live in a cycle of desire and denial. You'll stretch one hand toward abundance while the other hand pushes it away. And that kind of double-mindedness will exhaust you. But once your beliefs are healed, once your mind and emotions agree with your goal, wealth begins to feel like a natural extension of who you are. Not something you chase, but something you carry. Not something you fear, but something you steward. This is the posture that attracts true, sustainable, and unlimited abundance. My friend, I say to you today, your future is not ahead of you, it is within you. You were never designed to chase money, but to manifest dominion. Wealth is not a distant miracle. It is the result of a renewed mind, a disciplined imagination, and a bold belief in your divine assignment. You will never rise above the image you carry inside. If your mind is still in Egypt, your hands will never build Canaan. But if your thoughts are aligned with vision, if your beliefs are healed and your focus is fixed, then nothing shall be impossible for you. You are not poor. You may be in a poor environment. You may have had a poor upbringing. But you are not poor. You are powerful. And that power lies not in your job, your salary, or your credentials, but in your consciousness. When you transform your thoughts, you change your atmosphere. When you correct your internal image, you shift your external reality. The soil of your mind has already been given. Now it is time to plant the seeds of abundance, water them with faith, and guard them with focus. Do not beg for what you were born to command. Do not apologize for dreaming big. Do not settle where God has called you to reign. Train your mind, speak with authority, envision your wealth. Expect overflow. Because when your mind catches the revelation of abundance, your life will never be the same again. Let the world see in you what heaven has already declared, that you are a magnet for divine increase, a steward of resources, and a distributor of kingdom wealth. This is your time. Your harvest is waiting, but it starts in your mind.